Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Bella and I love all things design and DIY. Today is a very design and DIY focused video because we're going to be talking about how to design a room on a budget. And when I say budget, I mean budget with a capital B. I love design, I love redecorating a space, but I don't like spending money because I don't have a lot of money. I've been doing things on a budget for a very long time, and today I'm going to give you some of my absolute best tips to redecorate one of your spaces on a very tight budget. Just a teaser, I am going to be doing a video coming up soon on how to decorate a space for free. So a few of the budget tips are going to be saved for that video. This is for saving money, that's for spending no money at all. So keep your eyes open for that. That's coming very soon. So I think the very first thing that you need to consider when you're designing a room from scratch is, what do you want your budget to be? What are you comfortable with spending before it's too much? I would say one of my biggest tips for budgeting at the very beginning is to pick a number that is the absolute highest you can go without doing too much damage to your wallet, and then work backwards from there, figuring out how you can cut it as much as possible as you go along. This takes the surprise out of purchases adding up without you really knowing what happened and ending up spending a bunch of money without meaning to, and rather does the opposite, and you're going to be surprised with how much money you save. I think a lot of times we tend to go on the shyer side of a budget when we want to save money, because we want to be able to do things as affordably as possible, which is totally fair. But I think if you set a number that's your absolute limit and work backwards from there, for me at least, that can help a lot. Sometimes doing things cheaper means doing them slower. It's not always the case, but I think a good tip, if you don't want to throw a whole bunch of money into something up front, is to take your budget and cut it into pieces and then dole it out as time goes on. So maybe you want to get this project done in a month, you have a goal of when you want to be finished, and so you cut your budget into 4 and spend a little bit every week for 4 weeks. Or maybe you want to push it a little bit longer, because really a month isn't actually that long. Time goes by quickly, so you can really have patience with these projects. Maybe you want to take your budget and cut it into 3 and spend a little bit every month for 3 months. Whatever works for you, but this has 2 benefits. It helps you to kind of control the way that you're spending your money, but it also helps you make more intentional decisions because you're taking your time, which I think in the long run, intentionality saves you so much money. One of the best tips that I've picked up recently is to not start with your paint color. If you're doing everything from scratch, I think it's really easy to think, ooh, what color do I want to paint the walls? I get so excited about paint color. I absolutely love color. And so this is always the most exciting part for me. However, keep in mind that it is so much easier to match a paint color to any other accents than it is to match accents to a paint color. Your options for paint colors are really infinite almost. Whereas for these accents you pick up, they're a lot more specific, and especially if you're going for a certain look, or you have a very specific style, or maybe you find a piece that's just so unique and you have to have it. What if you already painted your walls and you just have literally no application for this piece you found? Your options aren't endless. You can't just go anywhere and buy anything because we're trying to save some money. What if you find the perfect drapes at the thrift store and they cost $10, whereas new or custom, they would have been hundreds of dollars, but they're in a very specific print, which you love, but the colors don't match the paint color that you already chose. Now are you gonna have to spend more money on drapes? Maybe. So my biggest tip for saving money when it comes to what to start out with, put off picking the paint color as far as you possibly can into the process. If there's a specific color that you absolutely love, I would suggest pick up a little sample of it. Those usually cost like under $10, and just paint something in the room, something small, maybe a little piece of furniture or a little square on the wall, just to see how you like living with it as you pick different elements for the room. And then you don't make a big investment. It's It's not a big commitment mentally. You didn't spend tons of time painting. So it's easy to pivot if the color doesn't work with the way that you're gradually picking up pieces. The next tip I have is to make physically large purchases first. So things that actually take up more space in the room, like textiles, so rugs, curtains, maybe art for the walls, furniture pieces, anything that's going to take up a lot of space. I say this because little purchases can add up really quickly and they don't make as much of an impact. There's usually way more options to spend less money on small accents than there is to spend less money on large pieces for the room. It's so fun to shop for little accents when you start picturing a room design, but all of those little $10, $20, $30 purchases that you might think, oh, this is such a good deal for this thing, those all add up so quickly if you continue buying them. And then you have a lot of little things in a room that doesn't have any big impact. So when in doubt, go for big things, skip the little things at the beginning. It's going to give you less decisions to make, which is also really helpful if you're new to design and you're not quite sure what your style is, or if you get sort of decision fatigue and just stress out whenever you have to make choices. This is going to help you a lot. It's less money spent, less stuff in the room. So I think it's also helpful to just go for a little bit of a more minimal look as you're getting used to a space and figuring out the direction that you can see it going. I think live with that minimalist look for a little while. It doesn't have to be beige or gray or white. I love color, I love print. You can see behind me at this half-finished DIY project. It doesn't have to be boring, but I would say go for big pieces, skip the little pieces. It's gonna be less cluttered all around. A good decision. The next tip I have, speaking of accents, is to be careful with statement pieces. This completely depends on how comfortable you are with design, how well you know your personal style, how long you've been living in the space that you're in, all of these sorts of things. Everyone is going to be different with this, but this is a good rule of thumb, I think, if you're just starting out. If you're looking at a statement piece, it's a little bit out there, but you absolutely love it and you think it's a good, unique jump off point for the space, go for it. Where it can get expensive with statement pieces is when the piece is so unique that there is only a very narrow direction that you can take the rest of the room in. This means you'll have less options that will go with this statement piece harmoniously, which means you won't necessarily get the best deal on whatever you purchase next. Be especially careful with this if you're new to home design and have trouble making decisions, and especially if you tend to make like rash decisions because you're getting stressed out about the options. Think a little bit about where this is going to take your space going forward and how seamlessly you can add in new elements. Here's a good example. Say you have 3 pieces to choose from. One is the very, very safe option. It's very basic, nothing much to it, but you know it's safe, you know it'll go with almost anything. Option number 2 is a piece that's a little bit out there. You love it. Maybe it's in a style or a color or a print that you've never tried before, but you're feeling curious about it, and you can picture a few different styles that would go well with this piece. The third option is a statement piece that is so wacky out there that you think it's the kind of statement piece that would just shine all on its own without any other styles complementing it. I would say if you're just starting out with design, go for the second option. It's going to get you out of your comfort zone, get you used to what you like and what you don't like, but it's not going to be as much of a commitment because you can easily kind of pepper in other styles and accents that will complement it, rather than having to commit to one thing that's the center of attention. So let's build off of this statement piece talk. I want to talk about contrast next. One of the best ways to not spend money on a space is to collect things from different places over time. All of the things I own come from so many different places. I have family heirlooms, I have secondhand antiques, furniture I saved for when I was a teenager, stuff I picked up off the side of the road that was garbage. You have to keep an open mind when it comes to where you're sourcing things if you don't want to spend a lot of money or if you want to spend no money. You can't just go online and buy a whole bunch of things for one space that are all from the same collection and you know will work perfectly together. Honestly, I don't even really think you want to do that. It's kind of boring and predictable. Sourcing things from everywhere is a great way to train your eye to start seeing the contrast that works for you and your personal style. All of my favorite interior designers do something, at least one thing in each space they design that makes me kind of go, what? And that's always the thing that really makes the space sing. A cohesive, all one style, all one color palette space works. It's easier to accomplish, but it can also get really expensive. A more collected look is really cost effective, and I think it's also an amazing way to, again, like I said, train your eye and really get to know your personal style. I won't go too in depth with this next tip because I feel like it's something that I talk about on this channel all the time, but if you want to save money designing a room, you are going to have to learn how to do some things yourself. You're just not going to be able to achieve certain looks that would otherwise cost a lot of money if you just purchase them. Of course, DIY costs can add up, and there's a lot more room for error, obviously, than just buying something. So there is the possibility of DIYs becoming a little bit more expensive. However, I think it's always worth kind of taking inventory of what you already have and what you can do on your own to just kind of rework the pieces that you have instead of buying new things. The one caveat I have with this is that it's always worth learning how to do the DIY well, using the right materials and the right products so that it doesn't end up looking like you did it yourself, which I think sometimes causes you to get sick of the item sooner and want to cycle in new things into your space, which is not going to be cost effective. So use discretion with this one, but I think learning a new skill is always worth something, and it also makes the process a lot more fun and personalized to you. The next and very last tip I have is maybe slightly contradictory, but not. Sometimes making an investment into something saves you money in the long run because it doesn't tempt you to buy something new because you made the right choice. I think a good rule of thumb, if you're willing to invest a little bit of your budget into something that's a bit higher quality than everything else that you know you're gonna have for a long time, but you're not quite sure what your style is yet, is to invest in the more basic pieces rather than statement pieces or especially trend pieces that you're gonna grow sick of quickly. Owning things for a very long time is always gonna be more cost effective than replacing your items all the time. However, quality items don't have to be bought new. I have so many beautiful things that I've bought secondhand or had passed down to me that were just made really well and have stood the test of time. My style happens to incorporate a lot of vintage and antique pieces anyways, so that tends to work out well for me. But shopping at thrift stores or places like Marketplace, you can find just about anything. So whatever an investment means to you, it's different for everybody and different for the space, different for what your budget is for that specific point in time. I think it can be worth it sometimes, but again, use discretion. So that is all the tips I have today for you on how you can design a room from scratch on a budget. I hope this was helpful and I hope it inspired you for some upcoming projects in your home. If you enjoyed it, you can give it a like down below and subscribe for more content just like this, and I'll see you back here next time.